Thank you for watching Conscious Consumer Network. The live stream broadcast is free to view. You can pause and rewind live broadcasts to catch up, or view shows at a later date by accessing our free archives of all shows. Check out our broadcast guide to see what's on. You can show your support by donating to our network support fund. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribe to the monthly newsletter for updates. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
This is For the Love of Learning, Voices of the Alternative Education Movement. Be inspired by the voices of visionaries, changemakers, and ordinary, extraordinary people who do what they do all for the love of learning.
This is For the Love of Learning, Voices of the Alternative Education Movement. I'm Lainie Liberti, and this is episode number 74. We are coming to you tonight live from the Life Without Instructions Conference. And I'm sitting right next to Anne, who is one of the show's co-producers, as well as the producer and organizer extraordinaire behind this incredible conference that just started today. We're live in New York. There are tons of people around us. There are kids, families, all sorts of people here that are interested in continuing the conversation about alternative education and more. So I want to introduce you to Anne. This is her first time actually in front of the camera. We're going to talk a little bit about why she created this conference and why it's important to have these sorts of resources for those in the alternative education community. So Anne, welcome.
Thank you. So do you want me to hold it?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm Anne. I've been behind the scenes for a couple of months now on the show. We started the Life Without Instructions conference last year, was our first year, so this is our second conference, and it's tons of fun for everybody. I started it basically because my kids love conferences, and there wasn't anything in the New York area. So, yeah, so that's why we're here, and it's fun, and it's awesome. And I am not a speaker. That's why I'm behind the scenes. So, yeah, so I'm going to give it back to Lainie. And
so Anne is an extraordinary organizer, and she does such an incredible job putting things together. The schedule is packed. There are probably 4 or 5 choices each hour of things to do. Unfortunately, you tasked me so much I haven't been able to watch too much or participate in the talks today.
Maybe tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So I've only been able to sit in on 2 talks, and I today hosted a teen panel, and very similar to what we've done on the show before. And we did, what else did we do? We did the icebreakers, which is really
Right.
important.
Yeah, yeah, because it's good to get to know everybody that you're going to be spending the week with,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I mean, you have to get to know everybody so you can be comfortable talking about. I mean, we get into deep stuff
Yeah.
at these conferences. So
And the
yeah,
point is, it's really important. There are so many online groups and so many online blogs and gatherings, but to be able to meet somebody in person is
yeah,
such an
yeah,
incredible opportunity,
it
and it's
is.
vital
Yes.
to creating community and not feeling like you're crazy and being yourself and finding your tribe.
Yeah, exactly what you said. It's so important because we can join Facebook groups and Yahoo groups and email people and talk to them online, but it's not nothing in the world compares to being in person with this group of people. I mean, we this is the best people in the world that are here. Really, like, yeah, truly, and yeah, we're all here together, and that's. I am not a speaker,
You're
and you keep
doing
looking
great.
at
You're
me.
doing great.
Um,
She's doing great. I know you're
you
doing
keep
good.
you keep looking at me to say more, and
No,
I'm
no,
like,
it's great. It's great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab people from the conference and just talk. And if you've been watching the show for a while, you will recognize a lot of the panelists that are here that came to New York to speak at this conference and to really support the community that we're all a part of. Um, why don't you go see who our first guest is?
okay, Zakaya, you want to be first?
Sakaya is coming first. So, Anne,
So
thank you
I will get
so
up.
much. Thank you
Have
so
fun.
much. We will. So, I'm sitting here live with Zakaya. Zakaya actually has been on 2 episodes before for the Love of Learning, and now we are here together in person. I'm so
Me
excited.
too. Me too.
So, why did you travel from South Africa to New York to be a part of this conference?
You know, I think there's a special energy that comes from being in a space where people share the same similar value system and have similar goals in terms of how they'd like, what kind of a world they'd like to see, and what kind of parents they want to be, and what their understanding of learning and living is. And because it's such a unique um, philosophy, we tend to feel very isolated in our everyday lives, you know. So when you gather in these spaces, this is the chance where you grow, where you connect, where you learn. It's an energy that carries you to your next gathering. And after coming last year and just feeling at home immediately with people I'm meeting for the first time, I knew this is my tribe. And I also felt very motivated to put together a conference for South Africa because we've been doing this for a long time now. I felt like it would be nice for us to connect with each other in a very intentional way and to learn about the issues that we need to engage with in terms of learning, reimagining learning, and also connecting with the global community. So although it's I call it a global conference because it's global, it's a local dialogue informed by global connection, and this is how we connect our South African unschooling, alternative learning, alternative education community with the broader network of what's happening outside.
Yeah, I love the fact that not only did you come last year,
Yeah.
you were inspired to go back to South Africa and create this for your local community. To me, that is like a true inspiration.
Well, I think I always wanted to do something. I just, coming here gave me the courage to say it's okay. It made me realize that it doesn't all have to, that bringing people, unschoolers, alternative educators, peaceful parents, conscious parents together in a space is magical in itself. And hey, why can't we all enjoy this, having something like this? So it gave me the courage to put it together. The motivation we always wanted to, but the courage came from, and of course Anne has been very supportive in logistical issues, and you have been really supportive in agreeing to come and be there and participate in it. So yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And I think you tapped on something really important. This is unique in the sense where we're talking about education. We're all gathered here for peaceful parenting and education, but the education is not happening in an institution where we can all gather. It's happening in our homes and in our families. And yes, most of us and communities
And communities, yeah.
and most of us can feel isolated walking that path. I mean, it's something that we do within our family settings. Some of us are, doing it within community settings as well. But it is a community. Um, it's a community matter because we affect the communities that we live in, and the communities that we live in affect how we educate. And to create community as, home educators, as somebody who is living on the cutting edge, it's important for all of us to get together, I believe.
Absolutely. You know, in all your identities, if you're gay, you want to connect with other gay people where you feel that you can be yourself. If you're a person of color, you at some point want to connect with people of color so that you can explore that identity. When people move to other countries and they meet other nationalities, I mean, people from their own countries, they connect because they want to reconnect with that identity. And so these are the spaces where this identity of living and learning outside of an institution is where we express that identity freely, in a space where it's accepted and we're not being defensive and we're growing instead of defending.
Yeah, and I think there's something like you tapped into something so magical about these spaces that we create because there is such a sense of acceptance. Like for example, last year, one of our former guests that was on a previous show, Dr. Peter Gray, he was giving a presentation, and one of the girls that was running by behind us ran into the presentation with a banana suit. With a banana suit. Do you remember that? And Dr. Peter Gray was just like, yeah, this is it. Didn't miss a beat. And the craziness, the freedom of expression, all of that happens in a space with love and acceptance. There was no, get out of here, you're interrupting. There was none of that. It was just like the natural flow of everything that was going on. And I just think the magic of being able to be yourself and to find your tribe is so important.
So important. And there's also very few spaces where, your children are all accepted.
Yeah.
Or where children, not your children, but, there's so many restrictions and children are seen as a nuisance or as, like we haven't created a world that actually acknowledges that they live with us. We just tolerate them until they grow up. And this is one of those spaces where they are considered. They are part of discussions. There's other things for them. They're part of this community. And there are many spaces where we can see children, self-expression, authenticity, identity being expressed so freely and being so accepted and welcoming. So yeah, I love being able to witness. I'm here without my kids, but I love being able to witness all these children, and I don't even know who the parents are, but these interactions are so authentic and so respectful and so beautiful. It's like this is the possibility for the kind of world we can create.
Yeah.
Why would we not want to do this?
You're right. Why would we not want to do this? And besides the world that we create, we're all creating our own different projects. And tell us a little bit more about your conference coming up in South Africa.
Okay, so South Africa's conference is in February 11th to 12th. It's called Learning Reimagined. We've got Manish Jain from Shikshantar in Rajasthan coming, and he's a long-time activist on a learning activist, I would say, and he also heads up the Eco Universities Network. So he's bringing that global connection to South Africa. Then we have Lainie Liberti going to be there. We've got local speakers and, long-time activists, researchers. We've got all that going in a beautiful venue at the Botanical Gardens in Johannesburg. And again, family conference, family friendly, you know. So hope to see some of you there.
Amazing, amazing. Thank
Shameless
you.
self-promotion.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great, Sakaya. Thank you. So I'm going to turn around and see who's ready to come and take your seat. Do we have somebody ready to come take our seat? Hey, have a seat. Hi. 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 So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Neil Karkanis, and I was unschooled for the vast majority of my life. Then I actually chose to stop being unschooled.
Wow. Yes. That's crazy and great and amazing. Tell me about why you chose to stop being unschooled.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I think unschooling is definitely better than public school and homeschooling. I was homeschooled for only 1 year of my life, and I don't know why I hated it so much, but I completely rejected every all of it. And then we went to a conference in I think it was Texas, and it just and my parents decided to unschool us, and I loved it for a long amount of time. But I ended up feeling, I want to say a more complex word, but really it was just bored with the whole concept. I would feel that it's not like I didn't have the resources to learn. It's that I just felt in a day I didn't know what to do. So we discovered a place called a Sudbury School, and South Jersey Sudbury School had opened where we live. And I went there and I realized, oh my gosh, this is everything that I've ever wanted. It's completely democratic, and so by majority vote at the school meeting, we could potentially fire a staff member, hire a staff member. School meeting actually has to vote to pay the staff members. So school meeting knows exactly the amount of school money that's going to be paid to the staff members. And school meeting is comprised of everybody in the school.
Amazing.
And every Sudbury school is a little bit different because everything is subject to change to the school meeting. Now, some power is delegated through different areas, like through the judicial committee, the IT committee, which I love the IT committee. I bet. Yeah. And but ultimately, everything rests with school meeting because through majority vote at school meeting, everything is subject to change.
That's so cool. So you go to a democratic school,
Yes.
and I'm such a supporter of democratic education.
So great. And you don't have to go to class either. So it's like unschooling, but with more resources and with it's like unschooling, but with more resources. And honestly, you get to be more sociable too. And it's really great because it tells you you learn how to really understand how to be diplomatic, and you need to be able to talk to people because you can be really smart, really intelligent, but if you don't know how to talk to somebody, you're never going to get a job and you're not going to understand things. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's such a good point. And can you tell our audience how old you are?
I'm 13 years old.
And tell me, what have you gotten out of being in a Sudbury school that you don't think public school could have offered?
Right. Well, one of the things was I really was interested in psychology. I wasn't interested in psychology until I went to Sudbury School. Then I got interested in child psychology and other forms of it. And I was into astronomy, but I realized when I went to Sudbury School that astronomy, it just didn't really click when I went to that place. And it allows you to explore your career without being forced. And also, we've had people come up to our staff room and say, "Oh, I'm the parent of so and so, and I want so and so to learn math." And our staff members have flat out said, "If so and so comes to me and says, 'I want you to teach me math,' then we'll teach so and so math."
I love that. So it is the learner-driven power.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our staff members are just there to help with things that we can't do and just support the school and also provide resources. And if the staff member can't provide a resource because my sister wanted to learn French, and what we did was none of our staff members knew French, so we actually, one of our staff members got into touch with um, a woman who is a linguist, and she knew multiple languages. I can't even list the languages she knew. And she taught my sister French for a period of time, but then she realized that she wasn't that interested in it, and that's great because you get to discover, you get to choose and look at your own career path and choose what you want to do.
That is such a great way to learn. I love it. And what would you say to somebody who was just considering dipping their big toe into the whole alternative education? What would you say to them?
I would say it depends on if you're a parent or a child.
What would you say to a child?
I would say if you're comfortable where you are, you can stay where you are. It's fine. But I think that it's very important to explore other paths. And if you're having some concern or some difficulties, go ahead. You have nothing to lose, really. You really don't have anything to lose. And a lot of the times, I hear from a lot of adults and parents, oh, I don't think Billy would do well in Sudbury School or unschooling. And then I just silently think to myself, but I've never actually heard that come from a child. I've only heard that come from the parents of the child. And I just stop talking to those people. It's just, I don't want to get into a debate about when your child comes to me and says that they don't want to do it, then I'll believe you.
Oh my gosh, you are so, so smart. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Oh my gosh, well come back, and we're going to be interviewing people all night. So come back and tell us more. But before you go, give us a big wave.
Hi.
Give,
Genius again.
oh yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
So next we have Martin, who is, if you recognize Martin, we hope you do. Martin was our guest host when I was doing the retreat, and you hosted the kids panel. So now you've been on one of my shows before you were the co-host. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that. And then after we speak, Martin is actually going to take over the interviewer chair and interview some of his friends here at the conference. But let me go ahead and ask you a couple of questions first. So first of all, what do you like about coming to conferences?
Well, I don't like all conferences as a whole because I've been to some where I didn't really like them. But the reason I like this conference so much is because the person who's running it, son, is like my best friend. So that's one of the reasons.
Well, what do you get out of conferences?
There's a lot of community in it that can be lost in unschooling, because depending on where you live or what area you live, if you're in a rural area or something like that, it depends on where you are, whether or not you're able to literally have an unschooling community. Because everywhere has unschoolers, but everywhere doesn't have a lot of them. So I kind of live in an area where I have a good amount of unschoolers that live near me, but a lot of them are a lot younger.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's it.
So you mentioned, you just said that community, right? You create a sense of community at the retreat that is outside of your normal community where you live. What's different about this gathering? What's different about coming to a conference that you like with people that you like? What's different for you than just normal meetups?
Well, first of all, it's a multi-day thing, and we're all sleeping in the same building, which kind of helps. So we're all sleeping on each other's floors, and there's a lot of camaraderie in that. We're always together, and we get to see a lot of what other people are doing. And everyone here has something else. Some people are here for the panel, some people are here for their friends, some people are here for all of it. And it's a big learning experience to see how other people do what they do.
And to share space and share time. It's kind of like a big 5-day party, right?
Pretty much.
But it's all centered around learning.
Yeah.
And most everybody here, have you noticed, are excited to learn?
Well, yeah. There's a very different. It's very interesting. It's kind of like reverse psychology. If you don't make a big deal about learning being fun, then it actually is fun. If
I love it.
learning is everywhere. You learn something almost all the time, no matter what you're doing. So it's interesting to come to a place like this where you're constantly learning new things and learning new lifestyles, and you're not even really trying. It's not like a focused thing. It's just kind of you're there in the moment and you're learning naturally. And what happens a lot with other people, and the reason why so many kids are like don't like school and don't like stuff is because it's so forced. Like you sit down in the classroom every day and listen on how you should be learning, and that's not really natural.
That's so well said. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So tell me, what did you like about being a guest host when you hosted the kids panel?
It was very nerve-wracking, but it was interesting because it was fun to be able to kind of keep tabs on everyone and stuff like that. I thought we had a great group of people there. It was really interesting.
This was one of the network's most watched and most appreciated and most loved shows. Everybody was talking about it. So you did an incredible job.
Thank
I
you.
am so grateful. I'm so grateful. And in fact, would you be interested in taking over the interviewing shoes right now?
Sure, right now?
Let's do it. So we're going to switch, actually not switch seats. He's going to take my seat, and we're going to bring in some people for Martin to interview, and he's going to be the host of the show for just a little bit. And I'll be back in maybe 15, 20 minutes. So for now, come on over here.
So, hi everyone. We're gonna call a friend of mine up. So, James, can you come up here? So, James, say hi.
Hi.
This is James with his fabulous hairdo, and
It's going to be hard to take you seriously with my great hair.
yeah. So, this is James. He is the son of the person running the conference, who I met at another conference a long time ago. So I've known him for a very long time, and he's kind of socially awkward, so I'm not going to put him too much on the spot here. But what do you think of conferences as a whole?
I don't know. There are conferences.
How do you feel?
Describe that.
What's your favorite part about coming to a conference with all of these people and being able to be a community?
Just getting with my friends and party.
Are you more of a panels kind of guy, or do you just kind of hang out with your friends and walk around everywhere?
I just hang out with my friends.
Okay. So, you don't really want to answer questions, do you?
I kind of do, but I'm going to be really socially awkward.
Okay. So we're going to ask you a couple more, and then we're going to invite another person up. So how do you feel about the fact that your mom is running the conference? Does it feel cool, or is it kind of weird?
It's really nice because it's really easy to just suggest things to do.
And is it cool to kind of like be behind the scenes of everything?
Yeah, it's really fun to do that.
Okay, so that's probably about all the questions you want to answer. So say bye.
Bye.
Okay. Get out. So I'm gonna call up Cade to the seat right here. So Cade, say hi.
Hello.
So Cade, you had a long drive to get here now, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna ask you a couple questions. So what's your favorite part about conferences in general?
Getting together with friends and just learning different things from different people, I guess, because everybody has a story to tell, I guess.
What is your favorite part about, like, being here for multiple days and living in the same place and just being able to wake up and go downstairs and see everyone? Like,
It's kind of hard to say, but I look forward to every day with, like, different perspectives, I guess, because I do something different every single day.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome, and I get to see, like, friends that I never get to see that I just talk to online. So,
that is one problem about unschooling, and that's one thing that makes conferences even better is usually we meet through social networks. Usually we meet through like social networks and stuff. So, or we meet one time and then we find out, oh, you live in Arabia or whatever. And like, it's hard to get used to that. So it's great when conferences like these happen because it really brings everyone who necessarily wouldn't even be in the same country together, and it's really awesome. Have anything you want to add?
Not really. That's pretty much all I can say about conferences, I guess.
Okay. So, wait, bye.
Bye-bye.
We're going to call Patrick up to the chair. Okay, thank you. Hey, Goat Man, get on the seat. Get on the seat. Okay, so this is Goat Man. He can speak in Mott.
But I also know English.
Yeah. He has a deep voice, Jesus.
Yeah, it's really surprising, even to me.
Wait, I don't know. So this is Patrick, and that's Emily, and that's blue-haired kid. So how do you feel about conferences in general?
In general, I don't know because I haven't really attended that many. I've attended really only unschooling conferences, but of the unschooling conferences that I have attended, like, thumbs up. It's a great place to meet new people.
Yeah. So you're a world schooler, right?
Correct.
So how do you feel to be able to see your friends that you can only really communicate on online and stuff?
It's bittersweet because, at the same time, while I'm here and enjoying my time here with them, I also know that it's going to end very briefly. So it's great. I like having this opportunity to do it, but, at the same time, it's also kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So you have a goat hat, and you run around the conference as a goat. Can you explain in English why you do that?
I can explain, but not in English.
Okay, well, go ahead.
All right. Ma 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 ma.
There you have it, there, folks. I'm not fluent in goat, but I think I think he said, I think I'm a water horse that swims in the land.
You are, wow, that is.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Thank you. My good sir.
You heard me.
I think you said that wrong. Okay, so anything else you want to add?
No, I'm a goat.
Sweet. Okay, now hop along. We're gonna call Isis up here. So, say hi.
Hi.
So this is Isis, and one of the great things about conferences, and this conference in particular, is I actually met Isis here on the first day of last year's Life Without Instructions. So it's loud here, and if you computer were able to talk to me, I wouldn't hear you. I'm very sorry. Okay, so Isis, how do you feel about conferences in general?
I think they're a good way to meet new people and learn about like world schoolers and other unschoolers. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you feel that when you come to conferences, you're like you're learning, obviously, but do you ever feel like you're teaching others your way of life?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's something interesting, because even if you feel like you're the one learning all this new stuff, you can sometimes just be learning just be teaching just as much just by how your everyday life happens. So, do you have any favorite part about a conference?
Probably the people I meet.
So, anything to add?
Well, it's a good way of the learning.
It is a good way of the learning. Heard it here first, folks. Go to your next unschooling conference today. It is a good way of the learning. Okay, so thank you for coming up. Wave. You're supposed to wave.
Bye.
Okay, can I call Patrick Jameson to the stands? Okay, so, Patrick, what's your favorite part about conferences?
People.
Do you think you learn anything at these conferences?
A little.
Don't get too close to the mic, it's sensitive. So, you have makeup on your face. Why is that?
Because I'm a person.
Okay, anything to add?
You're a person.
Thank you. Okay, that's about
These are this short.
pretty much, yeah.
No, I want to do.
Okay, fine. Do you ever meet any friends or anything at these conferences?
Yeah. Some people just come back that I already know, and some people I get to meet.
Sweet. Do you have any friends that you get to see every year or anything?
Well, I have some friends I get to see every year.
Do you feel like conferences are cool because some of the friends that live far away you get to see?
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Okay. Thank you for being on the show.
One more. I have a flower tattoo, and and I had another one, but it faded. Goodbye.
That was probably very loud. I'm sorry. It's open mic. You want to sit down? Hey. So what's your name?
Cavender.
Nice to meet you, Cavender. So, what's your favorite part about conferences?
Running around and playing.
Cool. Do you like to run around and play in the halls or in the lobby?
Everything.
Sweet. Do you have any friends you get to see at conferences?
Yeah, Patrick.
Who was just on?
Yes.
Sweet. And you and Patrick are friends?
He sees me every year.
Cool. Do you do a lot of conferences or just this one?
I did once, 2 times, and then this is the third one.
Cool. Do you have anything to add?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Thank you for being on the show. Say bye.
Bye.
Open mic. Anyone? Hello.
Hello.
What's your name?
I'm Katie.
Nice to meet you, Katie. So what's your favorite part about conferences as a whole?
I think my favorite part of the conferences is so many unschoolers being able to come together of all different ages, being able to share all their interests, and just getting to meet new people, explore new interests, and just have a great time.
Are you more of a goes to panels and like does all the sessions, or you just kind of hang out with your friends that come and stuff, or a little bit of both?
I'd say a little bit of both. I haven't done a whole lot of panel stuff. I just help out here and there whenever I can. Like just now, she asked me if I could interview, and I said yes. So I just kind of do whatever.
Sweet. You've been on the show before.
I have, yeah.
Nice. Same.
Yeah.
So, anything to add?
I guess, like I said before, these conferences are just such a great way for so many unschoolers to get together and meet new people, learn different things, and for people that don't know much about unschooling to really come to these things and ask the kids how it helps them learn and expands them. Like the couple we met today with the 4-year-old daughter, they didn't really know much about it, so they asked her opinion, and I think it's really great that we can help out like that.
It's very interesting that I'm scared. It's very interesting that kids are the people that they ask and not the adults, because I feel the adults and the kids are very equal on it. So you could ask either, and it would probably be pretty much the same answers. It's a team effort.
Yeah, I love that the kids and the adults are equals. I've always felt that, it's a bit unfair that we are considered lessers just because we're not as knowledgeable and aren't able to do as many things as older people. So I love that we can come here and be treated as equals just like the adults, and the adults are okay with it, and they're awesome. They're not,
It's also interesting that if you let a kid grow on their own and learn things that they want to learn, they can be equal with an adult and have the same opinions, because, you're not actually an adult until you're 25 because your brain is all not grown all the way there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming up here.
You're welcome.
And wave bye to the audience. Okay, so does anyone else want to come up? Anyone else? We got a whole big group of people back here. Come on. You've been on this panel before. Okay. So what's your name?
I'm Alyssa.
How do you feel about conferences as a whole?
It's fun.
Could you dance somewhere else? You rotten kids, get off my line. Okay, so your mom, you're the sister of James, right?
Yeah.
So your mom runs the conference. Do you like kind of being like behind the scenes, or do you wish that it was run by someone else?
I actually really like it because I get to like suggest things and I'll give my opinion on like things she's not sure about, stuff like that.
So you're like a big part of the creative process on how to run an awesome conference like this.
I wouldn't say a big part, but I do help.
Sweet. So anything to add?
It's fun. You guys should come.
What?
It's fun. You guys should come.
Okay. Thank you for coming on the show.
Bye.
Okay. So we got a big crowd of people back there. So like any one of you could come up and be interviewed if you want.
Can I?
You already were interviewed.
Goodbye.
Yeah, go ahead. You don't have to ask. They already went on. Okay, so what's your name?
I'm Killian.
Nice to meet you, Killian. How do you feel about conferences as a whole? Unschooling conferences.
I love them. I love the getting to meet people, getting to do some really cool stuff. I really like them.
So do you like to meet new people or see the friends you've already made?
Both. I mean, I love meeting new people. It's one of my favorite things to do. I don't like meeting them at first, but I love getting to know them. But I also really love getting to see friends of mine, especially because a lot of them live very far away from me. So it's difficult to see them. So conferences are really nice for that too.
I mentioned that a little earlier. It's very interesting because a lot of people who do the unschooling thing travel a lot, so it's hard to keep a friend. So it's interesting when conferences like this happen, like a network of friends that could only communicate on Facebook Messenger because they're all in different countries can like come together and basically just have like an awesome friendship. And not only that, but you get to live with them in a hotel together. Do you have anything that you particularly love about conferences, like in particular?
Stop, please. Really just the diversity in people. Like you get to meet so many different people who are so unique in really different ways, and it's really interesting to not only see that and experience that, but kind of take a little bit of that with you when you go back to wherever it is that you're from.
So I was actually just touching up on this. So you're learning from other people, but they're also learning from you. So it's basically a big exchange in beliefs and ideas and lifestyles, because without even really trying or noticing it, just by being yourself at these kind of things, you can teach someone else what you do, especially people who have it like or coming to these things trying to find out what unschooling is about. It's very interesting. You guys should come check it out. It's awesome.
Definitely.
So do you have anything to add?
Not really.
Okay. Thank you for coming on the show. Anyone else? Come on. Come on. I would turn this camera. There's like 70 people back here. Just come up.
Would you like to interview me?
Sure.
Full circle.
This is a role reversal. Okay. So, Lainie, how do you feel about unschooling conferences as a whole?
I think they're really important. And I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited that you're like my guest host partner. This is amazing, but unschooling conferences are amazing.
Have you ever been interviewed on your own show before?
Why, no, I haven't.
This marks a day in history. So, how do you, what is something you particularly love about all the, community and people and awesome things you get to do at conferences like these?
Well, for me as a traveler, this is the one time of the year that I can connect with people in real life, and we talked about that before. But go ahead.
Exactly. It's probably one of the biggest it's like a very bittersweet kind of thing because it's like amazing to travel the world, but there's a lot of like you can't really keep a friend unless you want to have it over the internet. So it's awesome when there's conferences like these where everyone you wait for it all year, you plan a calendar, you're so excited, and then you have this awesome conference, and usually, at least I know, I never leave with any regrets. Just I'm sad because it's over. So that's something that's like really important about conferences.
I totally agree with you, and I think this is great.
Anything to add?
Wow. I don't know. I think that you are an amazing interviewer. I think that conferences are a great place to step outside of your comfort zone and
Definitely.
be with your tribe. I think it's a great opportunity to try on new ideas. It's also another great opportunity to get support and be supportive of others. So you can play all the different roles and be yourself and really come together as a community and build something that's meaningful. So.
That's very well spoken.
Well, thank you.
So are you going to take back over, or do you want me to keep interviewing people?
I think there's a couple of other people that I'm going to interview. Thank you. But we're going to call on you maybe later if you want to do some more interviewing.
Sure.
Want to grab another group and bring them
Sure.
another crowd? Okay, fantastic. So we have a couple more people that we're going to interview. We switched tables, switched chairs. This has been really fun, and I love the idea that it's so fluid and that we can just go with the flow, and that's kind of the whole idea of unschooling. Now, I've got Julian sitting next to me, right?
Yes.
And I would love to hear your story.
My story, well, I started becoming involved with my goddaughter's homeschooling experience a few years ago and came to the Life Without Instructions conference last year. And I really liked a lot of the presentations. A lot of the ideas were really eye-opening and gave me a lot to think about. So I came back this year to enjoy more.
Did you find, well, so I do know your story a little bit, and I did know that you're not a parent, you are a godparent.
Yes.
And you came to this conference as somebody who's a support figure of your family, of a child.
Yes.
Did you find that there were ideas expressed or explored that were very contrary to, let's say, conventional society, conventional cultures, that maybe challenged the way that you saw the world before?
I had done a lot of self-work previously, so I think I was already pretty open-minded about those things. Yes, I think a lot of the ideas presented at the conference are alternative to some mainstream thinking about education, about treatment of children in our society, relating to children in our society. But I don't know that they're really as unconventional as they might first appear once you get more familiar with them. I think they make a lot of sense on a lot of levels. So.
And can you share with our audience maybe some of the things that are your takeaway items from, takeaways from conferences, from the conference last year?
Sure. I actually really enjoyed last year some of the presentations on college for homeschoolers and unschoolers and ways to, if they choose to go that route, help them prepare for that.
That was a good talk. I remember that talk last year.
That was, something that gave me a lot to think about. Yeah.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. And what do you hope to gain from participating this year?
I'm really enjoying seeing a lot of the people that I met last year and also some new ones. And so I think furthering the relationships and also some of the new presentations that they're doing will hopefully give me more food for thought. So I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you. And what would you say to anybody who was considering going to an alternative education conference that didn't have children?
I would say that it's one of the most worthwhile events I've been to in a while. And I think whether or not you have children, it can be of great use for personal development, for your relationship with your child, or even your relationship with your inner child. So
Oh my gosh, that is so well spoken.
I think it could really benefit anybody, whether you're a parent or a child or just an individual with an interest in alternative education.
Or if you ever were a child.
Or if you ever were a child. That's true too. Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you.
And let me see if there's anybody else. There may or may not be. Oh, Terry's going to come sit in the hot chair. Yay! Hi, sweetie.
Hello.
So please introduce yourself.
My name is Terry DeMarco, and I live in the Boston area, and we've been unschooling for 3.5 years.
And remember that child that I talked about with the banana suit? Well, her daughter, and here she is. So that was last year. That was last year. Remember the banana suit last year? Oh, you were such a superstar. So Terry, what do you get out of coming to these conferences?
Well, I love it because I get to hang with my tribe, especially this one. It's all the people that I met when we entered this journey, and it's just wonderful to get around the energy again of people of like mind and just to see where everybody's at and the kids and everything. So that's really why we come.
And what do you feel about coming and being somebody who's in a position of supporting other people? Because there are many newbies to this lifestyle, and there are many of us that have been doing it for quite a while. And those of us that have been doing it for quite a while, we really stand in the place of being support.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel for you?
I enjoy it. I think mainly because I love the whole idea of how organizations run or how systems run. And so I look at unschooling as just another system, right? And squeeze apart some of the pieces and parts of how it all works well. And I take lots of information from others who have come before. But I think that I try to present it back in ways where you can make it a little bit more digestible, because I think when people look at an unschooling life, it looks daunting to many. And I think that it's really just a process of peeling an onion, right? You're slowly taking away some, I guess it's programming, right? We've now been programmed in some way, and you're just peeling away at some of the edges of that onion, and you realize that, wow, when you continue doing that, you just become a better person. And in that, you grow your family, you grow yourselves, and to give that back in a support way, I think is really valuable.
I totally agree with you. Can you share a little bit about the talk that you gave this morning?
Yeah, so I gave a talk on deschooling, but it's not so much kids deschooling. I think kids are really good at deschooling and getting rid of schoolish thoughts, because it's not a very fun place, and kids don't tend to sit in pain very long, right? So, but I think that we all who have been through school have a lot of stuff that was put on top of us. And so I really talk about 3 different areas of deschooling. One of them is removing or looking at schoolish thoughts and trying to exercise those. Looking at societal messages that we take on as, the way to run our lives, and are they valid or not? And then the last thing is once you get through all of that, you look at childhood messages. What were all the messages you were handed from your growing up that may or may not serve you, right? And I think that in doing all those pieces, you really understand what's holding you back in a lot of ways. And holding you back with your kids, holding you back in your own life. I mean, I've been able to deschool so many thoughts that I had, and they aren't conscious thoughts that my parents handed to me. They're thoughts that I picked up just by living in my family. You know, it was the unconscious bias, the stuff that Teresa was just talking about. And I've been able to exercise a lot of those things and realize that, you know what, I created an entire life where those things informed my everyday, and they limited me and took me away. And it took me away from actually, I guess, enjoying life to the fullest, maybe in some ways.
It's crazy, right? The things that we allow to be a part of our consciousness, part of our filters, the way that we see the world. It's crazy what we give our power away to.
Right, and the tapes that we play,
exactly.
Right? And how we remove ourselves from situations. And you talk, when you get into deep conversations with almost any person, you hear, they'll tell you those stories. They'll, if they understand, if they even know that they have them. And they really, and even though they consciously want to remove them, it's very difficult because they're so ingrained in us. And you come to the point where you just have to honor that it's there and push it off into a little nook and cranny and say, I'm not gonna play that tape today, or I'm not gonna listen to that one in this situation. And the more you can do that, the more you can remove the thought altogether, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we all have our little techniques of doing that. But I think what the most incredible part is that we're all doing it. Right. We're doing it as a community, and we're not just going through life with our blinders on and being, completely in a daze and zombied. And we are with our children, the community that is living on the cutting edge, and we're waking up and we're challenging these thoughts, and we're challenging the status quo, and we're doing it because we're doing it from a place of love. We want what's best for our children, and that always is the best motivation, right?
Right. And and it's, if I can, everyone, my kids will have messages or automatic thoughts, but if I cannot see too many of those on them, to choose to just say, hey, you know what, let's look at these. Why do we make our beds? Why would my mom believe that that was an important thing to do, right? I just don't get it. It was always a bad thing if you didn't do it. And I question that. I'm just like, I don't understand that. And my kids, may or may not make their beds. I don't really care. It seems to me you're always sleeping in one, so what's the sense? These are just things. So, it's like we were laughing about laundry the other day, and that I do laundry, but it doesn't always make it into dressers, right? I do it, I may fold it, but it's, it's all done, but I don't always get to the end game. And you have to grant yourself a ton of grace that, a lot of the things that we were, a good, fastidious life, the meter of that is kind of arbitrary or someone else's story. And I don't need to choose someone else's story to live. I'd rather choose my own story, right?
Bravo. Yeah.
And it's really fun when you do, as you well know. You live your own story. You created your own story. And I think it's very freeing. And you become a unicorn, I think, in the end, right? Because, you're different, but there's something very attractive to other people who haven't quite gotten there or don't understand your life, but they want it. They know that there's an energy there that they want a part of or a piece of in some ways. Right?
And I think you tap onto something really important. We're those that want to tap into the life that they see, the unicorn who shits rainbows, right? They want that. But these conferences really give us the opportunity to get down to the nitty-gritty and to be real and to look at the stories that are playing in the background, as you talked about.
And it's about vulnerability. And what is the one thing in our society we aren't allowed really to show? Essentially, you have parents, when you're sad, don't cry or stop crying, because it makes me sad. I can't handle that emotion, so you need to stop it. Or at school, to constantly be told when we're trying to be authentic or real that you need to push that aside, right? And I think that we just can't show vulnerability. And I think when you actually do learn to accept being vulnerable, that I don't have all the answers. I certainly don't. I am not an expert at any of this. I'm just trying to live the best life that I possibly can. And it may look odd and weird, and that's okay. I don't need it to look any specific way. But in that vulnerability, when you can share that with someone else, you have a long-lasting friend for the rest of your life. because you are raw with them, right? You are showing them things that you would never do. I mean, we just don't do that in our society that frequently, right? And it's wonderful. And once you kind of can get comfortable with that vulnerability again, I think that you can then go do it in other places and be okay with it, right? You know, not just in an unschooling conference, you know? I can do that with, you know, people I've never met, you know, and I'm just like, hey, I have no idea. I can laugh at myself, you know, things I never used to be able to do. And I love that because I think, you're becoming the person. You look out in the group and say, I really want to be that, you know, I love that type of person. You know, they're so raw and so vulnerable and so funny and whatever. Well, you can become that person. You know, you can become that person just by, doing the things they do, right? You know, recognizing that it's really all inside of us.
Absolutely, and I think one of the most incredible, deepest lessons that I ever had was having the not just the permission, but the confidence to do that with my child, to show my vulnerability, to show my humanness, my fallibility, to show those things. And that's where the paradigm started to shift. It no longer was an authoritarian, I'm the parent, do what I say sort of paradigm. Shoo, we're partners, we're human, we're moving through this together. Right? Oh, what? Are we off the air?
Oh, you know what? It's an unschooling conference.
How's that? Better? Are we still streaming? Whatever. Are we on? Okay, cool.
And I've lost my train of thought. But
we were talking about being vulnerable with your kids.
Yeah,
too.
I think kids need to see that because I think in school it's just not allowed, right? You know, immediately from kindergarten on, preschool on, like there is something that, you know, hey, don't be too loud. You know, the too loud, too joyful, too happy, right? You know, all of us have seen people react to anyone who might be too of anything, right?
Yeah.
And that you don't need to feel embarrassed or shamed more than once or twice before you don't try again, right? You really don't. It's not shame is one of those things that is a very informative emotion, right?
Wow.
So,
shame is one of those emotions that controls a lot.
Oh yeah. I mean, odd story. I mean, I was with my aunt who was only 4 years older than me and a friend of hers, and I was the young cousin being dragged along, or the young niece being dragged along, and they went out and had a blanket and juice, and they weren't supposed to have the blanket outside, and they had juice, and they were like, don't spill this juice. Well, what did I do? I spilled the juice, and I got yelled at. And I can't tell you how, I still can tell you that story. I was probably 6 at the time, or 7, right? It was horrific. It's not even a bad story, but I seriously, that is ingrained in my body to, if there's liquid around in a glass, to this day, even though I live this life, I will move it so that it is not in striking distance of a hand. And you will see me do this if you watch me at some point. I can, that is one, I'm aware of it, and I just do it for myself. But that is one that I'm always fearful of a spill. And it was a one-time activity when I was a child.
And it's amazing. It's not amazing that you're afraid of spilling things. What's amazing is the conscious self-awareness that you have around what triggers you. Mm-hmm. And if us as parents can be aware of those sorts of triggers, other than reacting to them, as many do. Right. I mean, I'm sure there are conscious parents that are outside of the unschooling community, but I think unschoolers, this community, it goes hand in hand with some sort of greater self-development, because we want to raise healthy children, and we realize in order to raise healthy children, we need to be healthy adults.
Yeah, we have to own our own stuff. We really do. And I think in owning our own stuff, it makes our kids own their own stuff, or it makes them understand that that's important. And that's, dialoguing, right? I mean, we dialogue with ourselves, we dialogue with our kids, right? It's not it doesn't just happen. It's about talking about it. I just had a conversation with my son about, he had someone who was in our house, who is someone we'd never really had in our house before, who just commented based on a story Emily had told that he was a bully. And she's, in school, and I'm sure that what she heard was something that triggered her. In school they would call that a bully, and she used that term, and that was really emotionally devastating to my son, that he was like, I don't believe I deserve that label and whatever, and it didn't come out until after the girl had left. And, we had to walk through that. We had to talk about that. But I love that he came to me immediately, after she had left, and I was able to talk through that, because can you imagine if that was that devastating, if that hadn't been kind of talked through and normalized in some way for him, that it could have been one of those shameful incidents that all of a sudden informs him, right? And, and we were able to chat about it, and we could just say, some people use different terms for something, but, keep in mind, this girl had one tiny little aspect of a story and made an assessment, but she doesn't understand that you were one of the most loving people, and empathetic kids that I've ever met. She wouldn't have seen that. She was taking just a piece of the story. And that happens a lot. You have to be aware of that. And you have to be okay, because you know yourself. I know that you aren't a bully. You know you aren't. And that's okay, right? But these are those types of stories that I think us as unschoolers, we spend so much time with our kids. We have the opportunity. I can't imagine that conversation would never have happened if that had happened in school, and my son had to wait 4 hours to come home, right? And then I'm forcing him to do homework, right? And I'm not I'm not connected with him, because it required us to be connected, right? For him to feel like he could come over and kind of cheerfully tell me what had happened. And then, we were able to talk about it, and I didn't need to resolve it for him, but I think he didn't feel as bad about it at the end, right? He still didn't like the interaction. He asked that girl not come and visit our house again, which I think is a fair request, right?
Yeah, incredible. And this sort of self-awareness, do you think this sort of, self-awareness could be possible in a more conventional school setting?
I actually don't. And I had my kids in school, so I know it wasn't happening. I mean, what I got out of him a number of years ago was he'd come home, tantrum, get mad over something that was very small, tantrum, be inconsolable, and unable to talk about it. And then at some point, he would just kind of exhaust that emotion and then rejoin us. But he would never tell me what had caused it. I had to kind of sleuth it through other means, through his brother, and find out maybe, or the teacher. And that was very difficult for me, because I had no basis on how, I had no idea what had happened. And usually I believe all behavior is a call for help, all misbehavior, right? So you need to sleuth. You need to understand what's going on to understand. And I wouldn't have had any of that. And it would have just gotten worse by now. Many years later, they would have already acclimatized to the fact, hey, there's no one here to help me. This stuff happens all the time. Emotional shutdown. Vulnerability is scary, right?
Yeah. I have one final question for you. What do you think that, the foundation of unschooling, the unschooling lifestyle is based on a freedom lifestyle. Why do you think so many people are afraid of granting their children freedom?
That's a good question. So I would go back to I say trust and faith. So I think freedom can only come if you have trust and faith. And there's that, Facebook meme that says, we don't know how to trust our children because we were never trusted, right? And I think that's very true. I also think that trust requires us to sit in a vulnerable state, a state of uncertainty. And I think that if you've been through school, you never have sat in uncertainty in any way, right? Like we know that there's a grade we need to get. We know all the work that we need to do to go there, right? So we live, I guess, minimizing risk, or minimizing our own personal risk, to make sure we can do the right thing. And so we are uncomfortable with uncertainty, and I think that in that, it's really hard to trust others. It's hard to trust kids. It's hard to trust our spouse, right? And I think it takes a lot of faith to do that. And it doesn't happen overnight. You don't all of a sudden say, oh my gosh, I just trust all of this, right? I think most people have to kind of trust their kids in a couple of different areas, and then they see the fruits of that trust, and then they expand upon it. I myself have never had a problem with trust and faith in this life. I, went to a conference 3.5 years ago where I first met you, and I just believed that it was the right thing, and I was willing to trust the process. So I might have issues along the way in seeing certain things that weren't really working or things that had some conflict in our family, but I never distrusted the process, right? And so to me, freedom comes after that. Freedom comes after that. And freedom is a relative term because we still live in a society where we have to follow rules when we're not inside of our house, right? I mean, it's not really freedom with no rules. And I view it as I just act as a guide for my kids to understand when they need to, curtail maybe their own freedoms to meet societal demands or requirements. But I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yes, that was beautiful, Terry. Oh my gosh, we did. We met 3.5 years ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
Crazy. And you've come a long way on your journey.
Yes, I love it. Yeah,
it's
that's
so
the thing
great.
we've ever done.
Oh, and
thank
this
you
girl,
so much.
I just adore this girl. Thank you so much for sharing time with us and sharing your story.
Well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Let's see. Would you like to get in the hot seat, Miss Sabrina? Oh, you know what? I'm going to interview Sabrina, and then did you want to come back in the interviewer's seat? I'd love to. Let me go ahead and interview Sabrina first. Is that okay? Oh, yes. Fantastic. I'm sorry? Yes. Fantastic. So, Sabrina.
Hi.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
Good to see you.
It's good to see you. Now, Sabrina, you've been on a For the Love of Learning show
I was
before,
going to say,
too.
yeah, are you taking repeats?
We are.
Okay, good.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, there's such a rich talent here.
I know. I look around and I'm like, yes, we need to talk. Yes, we need to talk.
So actually that leads into the first question.
Yeah.
So what is the value of coming to conferences like this for you?
Well, it's so good to be around like-minded people, right? You just feel like, these are my people. We get it. There's no, disclaimer. There's no pretense. So just know that us being here, we're just in a sort of a very special place where you feel like you can kind of dive the next, level down, where you can feel a little bit vulnerable because we're kind of coming at a same understanding where we can talk about some more challenges, some more issues, and also celebrate all of the exciting and crazy and wild things that are going on.
And this is a celebration, is it not?
Yeah, so I feel like it's just all those good things, and then not just happening online, which is where we connect so much in the day-to-day, but just in person, like the real live people, which is great.
So tell me, what does community mean to you?
It has certainly changed in terms of what I would say what it meant a long time ago, maybe like more like awakening of myself. But community is just a sense of people who I feel connected to, and I mean that from like person to person, like soul to soul. We understand each other, so you are part of my tribe. I feel safe in your company, so you are part of my community. I feel like when you feel that connection with someone, they just become part of your community, especially given nowadays with technology that I don't ever feel that distant from someone, even if we're thousands of miles apart.
Yeah, that's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And isn't there sort of like a ceremony of celebration coming together once a year?
Yeah, we were just saying it's kind of like a reunion, right? You have these people, you're like, I can't wait to, see you live and in person again, and then just, catch up on all the adventures we have and see where we where things have lined up, inspire each other for what else is going on, and and share in all of that.
Totally amazing. Now, you gave a talk earlier today, right?
Tomorrow, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good. Then I didn't miss
I'm
it.
prepping, yeah.
Oh, I still need to prep for mine.
Yes.
Okay.
As we speak,
Yes,
prepping, right?
as we yes.
We're speaking, but then also
Okay.
prepping, yeah.
So why don't you share a little bit about what you're going to talk about?
So I'm going to talk about living a shared family vision, which kind of means, aka getting on the same page with your family. So for me, I was inspired by world schooling first, then unschooling, and attachment parenting and peaceful parenting was all thrown into the mix. And I was sort of introducing this to my partner, and then down the line, because our daughter was an infant, also to her, that was her lifestyle. And so together we sort of all needed to shape how we wanted our life to look. And I really wanted us to have that space for us to all be able to express, this is how I want to spend my days, this is how I want to live my life, these are the goals I have when I really stop and think about owning my life, owning my happiness, owning my future. This is how I want it to look. And let's, take a second and remove all potential barriers and just say, if there were no barriers, what would that look like? And so when we started exploring world schooling, unschooling, I was bringing that to the table, and my husband was like, what are you talking about? Now we can actually go back to like what's possible. Yeah, sure, dream that, but what's actually possible, what do we want? So how we came from the point of me suggesting it, him reacting to then both of us, and then later our daughter shaping how that turned into a beautiful reality.
And so what does your life look like now?
Yeah, so we are an unschooling and a world schooling family. We currently are in a home base after a year of being location independent. So we traveled around North America for a year, and now we are kind of in a resting phase, and we are enjoying that tremendously, and then just enjoying diving into our unschooling days. And we are co-working and co-learning. My husband is working from home, which is what allowed us to travel also, that he could take his work with him. So we're co-working and co-learning all together, and we're loving it.
Amazing. Oh, it's so great. Thank you so much for being a part of tonight's show.
It was so great to be back.
Yay. Well, you're going to come on another show in the future.
Oh, yeah. So to be continued. Stay tuned.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yes. Bye, sweetie. And Lisa. Thank you so much for being patient. We have a special guest tonight. You may recognize her from 2 shows in the past. Hello, Teresa. Thank you so much for coming on this show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, of course. So tell me, we know, as our audience knows, that you do your own work and you're focused on many different things, but you make conferences a part of your life as well. What value do you get coming to conferences?
I think one of the important things for me, it's a great question as I'm thinking, as you're asking the question. I'm like, oh, that's one I haven't answered yet. Let me figure that out. I really value the connection with others, with both parents and the young people who come. Initially, when we started going, Martel and Grayson would come along. They sort of now are doing their thing, and so are less interested in coming. For me, as a presenter, though, it is really a way to kind of integrate all of the things that I have been doing throughout the year into different sessions, and to try new work, and to try some things that, are things that I've been thinking about or working on as well. So connections are just such a critical part of it, though. Yeah.
So I haven't had the chance to sit in one of your sessions this time, but last year I was able to sit in on one of your sessions. Mm-hmm. And what struck me about the work that you do and the way that you present is it's so interactive. There's such a feedback loop with everything that you do with all the different sessions, regardless of the topic of that day. Um, is this a way for you to connect with your readers, clients, community? What value does that bring to you and your work life?
Right. Well, I think one of the things that I come to the work with is when I started a lot of my work in dialogue, so intergroup dialogue. And so the whole purpose is to work with whatever's in the room. And so people, often what I feel like is each of us are reflections of what's happening in the world and the struggles that we're having in the world, both individually and then together as a group. And that in many ways we have so many commonalities in this set of work in particular as parents, that bringing out what's in the room is often the most critical set of work. And I feel like whatever I do, it's really just a framework. But the important thing is then what I facilitate, what people bring to the conversation, and then how it is we be present with what's happening right there and then. Because if someone's experiencing it, others are experiencing it. And that's what I find to be very common.
Yeah, that's great. So what are the differences between unschooling audiences than those in social justice or maybe just in the family, a general family setting?
I think, so the biggest thing that I find is not necessarily which audience, but whether somebody's forced to be there or they're voluntarily there.
Interesting.
Yes.
Sounds a little bit like school, huh?
Exactly. So this past year, for example, I did a series of trainings with some colleagues in my office, but it was a mandatory. Everybody shows up for the training. And it was very challenging. And I did a very similar training as a consultant with another college, but it was all self-selected. And the level of engagement and willingness to dive deep into the information was completely different. Plus, there was less at stake when you sit in the room with someone who has power over you, who told you have to be in the room, who's going to reveal some work that needs to be done, because that environment isn't conducive to, I think, the level of engagement and openness that's necessary for change. And so when people voluntarily come, they're usually, and they self-select and they know what the topic is, then there's this willingness to say, okay, I'm here. So I actually find it's much less about the group or the topic than it is about mandatory and power structures, I think, impact it.
That's really interesting. I mean, it says so much to the compulsory school system.
It does. And after doing this past year, I had to do 8 sessions with a group of staff. I was like, I'm never doing that again. I mean, I'll go in and do 45 minutes, which is usually a cursory training. If you want me to come in for 45 minutes, then it's going to be not significant. It's just let's touch on some things. But if I'm going to do something that's much more intensive and I really want people to think and be a little vulnerable, it's got to be voluntary.
Yeah, that's powerful. Mm-hmm. Speaking of vulnerabilities, that's a good segue. Uh-oh. Well, I know that you talk a lot about being an introvert, and coming to a conference is pretty much an extroverted activity.
Yeah.
How does somebody deal with such, anybody who's watching this sees the craziness of running around us and the loud, and how does somebody who is an introvert either take care of themselves and recharge, or what advice would you have, or what do you do?
Such a great question. I think that, especially when Martell and Grayson were younger, and so we'd go to conferences, I was always usually presenting in some form or another, but it was also about taking care of their needs. But I think what's critical, it's funny because so Lainie came up and said, oh, we're doing an icebreaker. And I was like, I hate icebreakers. And it's funny because in April, I went to Pam Larikia and Ann Oman's retreat, and it was very small. There were 60 of us in a room. We'd all do all together. very challenging for an introvert to be in a room all the time for 8 hours a day. But I remember there was this. So one is I sit in the back of the room. I'm a back of the room sitter. I am not a sit in the front of the room, and part of that is because then I can control the inputs. Right? When it gets to be too much, I can move further away. I can get closer as I need to. And so recognizing what my own limitations were, I think is a really critical piece. And then also opting out. So I remember there was this game that was being played at the retreat, the unschooling retreat. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. And some people might experience that as sort of rebellious. But for me, it was really about, I want to observe. And I'm not comfortable playing the game. And so that voluntary, mandatory thing that often I think when we ask people to do things, just like with our children, it's okay for us to say, no, I want to watch and I'm okay right here. And so often I think as introverts, we find ourselves giving in to the expectations of an extroverted society. So how is it that we give ourselves permission to say, this is where I'm comfortable in the corner. I'm comfortable in the back, and I'm perfectly happy, and I'm getting what I need.
Yeah, and it's not even an introvert-extrovert matter, is it?
No, it really isn't. I think it's knowing ourselves and giving ourselves permission, because sometimes if we were introverted or we were less social, I'm a very social person. I love to present. It's exhausting. And so some of it's the recharge. How much time do I need to recharge? What time do I need? I need to go back to my room and be by myself and, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think it is each of us. In some ways, it's honoring the principles by which we live as unschoolers for ourselves in the same way.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
It's been great talking with you.
Great talking to you, too. And I'm so excited to see you in person again. Quick little hug. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of the show.
Thank you. I will. And actually, I will because my co-host, Martin, where is he?
Actually, can I pop in?
Yes, please do.
The moment I didn't hear all of Teresa's, I didn't hear everything that Teresa said, but the moment she's talking about at the conference with the game that she opted out of, that was to me kind of an empowering moment, really, as an introvert, as a person who usually kind of goes along with. I'm an unschooler, so I don't go along with everything. But I go along with a lot of stuff because that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're expected to do, right? So this game comes up, which seemed, it was
That's right,
like
you
the
were there
rules.
too.
I was there too. The rules were a little confusing. I didn't quite understand, and there were so many people that they also didn't understand. So it was going to be just a whole thing, And so I was going to get up and do it. I was going to power through, and really, I knew I wasn't going to enjoy it, but I was going to get up and do it and power through. Teresa decided she was going to opt out. And that was, with her choice to opt out, gave me permission to also opt out. And that was, I don't know how else to describe it other than empowering, just to have community, right?
Yeah.
Have a partner, have community, have whatever. But yeah, we don't need to power through stuff just because that's what you're expected to do, right? So yeah, that's
really
all I have to say
interesting.
about that.
No. This is such a great conversation because what I find really fascinating about this is, yeah, there's got to be a balance between finding your boundaries and your own self-care, but also the abilities to step out of your comfort zone at times, not because somebody else tells you to, but because you're willing to go there.
Right.
And I think the real key here is what Teresa was talking about, which was that compulsory aspect. If you are required to do it and it's outside of your comfort zone, you're going to do it begrudgingly.
Right. With that particular game, I was going to do it, and I probably would have complained about it the whole time, and I wouldn't have enjoyed it at all. I would have enjoyed the complaining and the laughing at myself and laughing at everybody else, not understanding what's going on. And that's kind of what we did. We sat in the background and we watched, and everybody was laughing at themselves for not understanding the rules. And it I understood the reasoning behind the game. Like I understood why the organizers set it up and everything. It could have been a good thing, but like for me and for Teresa and a couple other people that opted out, it was like we need to just sit here and not and empower ourselves to say no, right? Yeah.
Amazing. And all of those things can be discovered at, coming to an unschooling gathering.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody is truly free to be themselves we're in a hotel environment. We need to be polite and respectful of other people's spaces and stuff. But I mean, we're with our people.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the best part. We're with people that get it.
Amazing.
Right? Yeah.
So I have not seen my co-host in a while, and
Where's Martin?
And so, hold on, we're just going to check real quick and see if Martin wants to take over the mic for just a little bit. If not, I think we are good. Let's see. Let's just hold on for a quick second. And how are we doing time-wise? I have no idea.
It was about 9:30 last time I looked.
Yeah,
we got 20 minutes if you want it.
All right. This has been really amazing. And I just want to say to our audience, nothing was scripted. Nothing was planned. I just got off the plane from Dublin last night. So all
it's been fun though. I mean, people are walking around. There's all kinds of stuff still going on tonight. And my voice is disappearing.
Yeah, your voice
just like it did last year.
Yeah, that's right. And right now there's a filming of Being and Becoming, which Clara was on
a couple of weeks ago. Yeah,
on the show, on the panel a few weeks ago. Well, here's Martin, my fantastic, fabulous co-host. Why don't you come and sit down? And he's going to take over for the last 10 minutes or so.
I don't actually have anyone to interview
you
because
don't?
no one wanted to do it.
Oh, well, then I'll tell you what. Why don't
We actually might have one person.
Okay, you want to check on that real fast? And then if
No,
not...
Tyler! Come get interviewed. Okay.
All right. Well, then, with my co-host, Martin, we're going to say to you, we're going to sign off together. We're going to say thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
Thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
I didn't mean word for word, but, together we have really, I think, put together a great show. And we're excited about this. We're excited about being here live from Life Without Instructions in New York. And the last thing I'd like to say is wherever you are and whatever you do, always do it for the love of learning.
Thank you for having me, Lainie, and thank you for not booing me off the screen.
Great. You did great. Thank you. And we're out.
Thank you for tuning into CCN. This unique network is dedicated to free and independent media. CCN was created with the belief that information is the common heritage of all beings, which is why our live stream high-definition broadcast is easily accessible and free to view. If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Having produced over 1,000 shows in 2015, which are all archived on YouTube, we look forward to bringing you more groundbreaking, cutting-edge information in 2016. For more information on what is on, please check out our broadcast guide for weekly updates. CCN broadcasts in multiple languages and features some key voices of our challenging times who are all in pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world. CCN belongs to you, the people, and it is up to you all to keep this network on the air. Please contribute to the Network Support Fund or visit the CCN shop. We thank you all for supporting free and independent media.